What's going on, guys? I'm back. So I did the part 1 of my Pixar ranking videos. So now I'm gonna do the top 10, and I wanted to do this in a separate part because I feel like I have a lot more to say about these 10 movies. They're the 10 Pixar movies that mean the most to me, and I'm really excited to get that list out there. As always, if you guys could like the video and subscribe to the channel, I'd really appreciate that. Lets me know the kind of content you want and that I'm gonna keep making these videos and what kind of styles of videos you guys wanna see. So without further ado, here comes the top 10 Pixar movies for me. Number 10 is gonna be Toy Story 4. As far as franchises go, the fact that a 4th movie in a franchise is this strong and that the characters are written so well is very impressive to me. I think all the Toy Story movies are fantastic. I love these movies quite a bit, and going into the theater to watch this and seeing just how much Pixar cares about this property and about these characters is really awesome. Obviously, this movie doesn't hold a lot of weight on its own as a singular film, but since you've seen all the other movies and you care about Woody and Buzz and Jessie and all of these characters, watching them go through these hardships and struggles together, it's just really empowering emotionally, and this idea of Woody really getting to a point where he feels like he's forgotten and that he doesn't matter anymore. These are really important themes that kids should see at a young age, because being an adult is hard, and it's difficult when you live a life as a kid and you're growing up and all this stuff hits you at the same time. And I think what the beauty of Pixar is, they're able to tackle these really intense thematic elements that adults go through on a day-to-day basis, but showing it to kids so that it'll prepare them for what life is like. And I think Toy Story 4 really handles that well. Only qualms with this movie, I feel like Buzz isn't really given a whole lot to do, which is kind of a bummer. Even like Jessie, Bullseye, all the other characters, they're kind of pushed by the wayside. I do like the incorporation of Forky. I think he's a fun character. This whole idea of like identity crisis amidst the rest of the subject matter is very interesting. I like the doll as the villain and like the little Goosebumps Slappy-esque puppets that are in it as well. I think that's really cool. I like that a lot about this movie. But yeah, it's coming in at number 10 for me. Coming in at number 9 is Toy Story 3. So I loved Toy Story 3 when I saw it in the theater. I could not believe that the 3rd act of the movie actually happened, that they almost like burned alive. The movie tackles some really heavy subject matter like the 4th one. Like I said, this whole thing of Andy growing up and going to college and not caring about his toys anymore. This whole idea of, are we going to go somewhere new? Is this group of friends going to have to split up forever? Looking at all of these different themes through the eyes of these characters that we know and love. And I like Lotso Bear as a villain. I think that he's twist and his character is really great. I love the incorporation of Ken in the movie. I think he's hilarious. So much fun things that happen in this movie, and the fact that a 3rd film in the franchise is so exciting and engaging and entertaining is refreshing to me. And like I said, this whole Toy Story franchise is wonderful. I love all of these movies to varying degrees, and the 3rd one is no exception. I think it's a fantastic watch, and I enjoy it more every time I see it. Coming in at number 8 is Monsters, Inc. I absolutely love this film. I think that the animation is beautiful. I love the designs of the characters. It's one of the most unique of Pixar's whole catalog. Mike and Sully are fantastic. I think John Goodman and Billy Crystal give amazing performances in this movie. I love the plot arc. It's very simple, but it's engaging. Sue is adorable. I love her character. I love this idea that Mike is a monster who's scaring people but doesn't really want to scare people. He wants to be a stand-up comedian. Just like the ridiculous nature of the things that happen in the movie. Obviously tackling heavier subject matter. This one isn't as deep as some of the other Pixar films, but it's a lot of fun. And I love the soundtrack to this movie, love the Randy Newman music in it. The intro theme to this movie is one that gets stuck in my head consistently, and it's one that every time I revisit, I love it even more. Coming in at number 7 is Coco. So this movie floored me when I saw it in the theater. I think the music is beautiful, the color in it is gorgeous, I love the performances. I just think that it's one of Pixar's most unique films. I love the representation of the Latin culture. I think it's amazing to see this story brought to light, especially in the United States, opening people's eyes up to a different culture and understanding a different culture. And it's what makes the movie so engaging and enthralling, and then being taken into this world of the dead and seeing the way that the characters are designed and having such a heavy plot arc that murder occurs in it. It's one of Pixar's films that juggles this material so well, and I've seen it a few times. I actually saw it 3 times in the theater when it was released, and I enjoy it every time more and more, and it's one that could eventually compete for a top spot for me. I just, the characters in these other films I attach to just a little bit more, but I do think this movie is fantastic, and I appreciate it with every rewatch. Coming in at number 6 is going to be one of Pixar's newer films, Soul. So I'm really surprised that I loved this movie as much as I did. Obviously, it came out during the pandemic. It was streamed directly to Disney Plus. And this is a movie that I regret not being able to see in a theater. I think the animation is beautiful. The subject matter of this film is some of my favorite of any of the Pixar movies. I think it holds a lot of weight. I mean, you're shown this person who has such a passion for jazz music, who loves it with their whole soul, and they want to be a jazz musician, and they're a teacher, but they don't seem to find fulfillment in teaching, and they're constantly striving for something else. And then obviously they die, and they're taken to the afterlife and want to get back into their body so that they can pursue this career and do this thing with their life that they want to do. And meeting this other character who is uncertain of becoming a human and what matters about being a human, and all of these really complex themes that are juggled and handled so well. I love that in the third act of this movie, it's kind of I don't know what I want to do with my life anymore, and finding fulfillment in teaching finally, but still, you know, yearning to discover something new. And I think there's a lot of beauty in that. The Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross score in this movie is gorgeous. I absolutely adore it. It's some of my favorite of Disney's music. Voice performances are fantastic. There's just a lot to love about this movie, and I can't wait to watch it again. And at number 5 is the original Toy Story. So this is early Pixar. The animation is beautiful. Obviously, the cast of characters are some of my favorite in the whole Pixar franchise. I love Buzz and Woody. I love this whole dynamic between old toy and new toy, understanding like, oh, this new toy's getting all the time with Andy. I'm not gonna be the same as I used to be, kind of getting pushed to the back, understanding your place and what's gonna happen, and then having a blossoming friendship come out of this whole horrible situation. I love the character of Sid and how evil he is. I think that whole thing in his room with the toys that are all kind of like built together because he's disgusting and he rips all his toys apart and puts them back together. There's something so demented about it. I love all the settings in this movie because these are such small toys and they have limited mobility. I love that there's circumstances that put them in different environments. I love the scene at the Pizza Planet. It's one of my favorites in the whole Toy Story franchise. It's so much fun. I love the score. Obviously the iconic You've Got a Friend in Me from Randy Newman. Some of the best music in Pixar's whole catalog, and I just truly adore the original Toy Story. Coming in at number 4 is WALL-E. So this is kind of funny to me. When this movie was first released, my family wanted to go see it at the movie theater, and I did not care about it whatsoever. I saw the trailer for it. I thought it was going to be really lame. I didn't want to watch it. We ended up going to the theater, and I was blown away by how incredible it was. I love the characters of Wally and Eve. There's something to be said about the fact that they have virtually no dialogue between the two of them other than saying their own names, and their facial expressions and their body language. It's just incredible that you care so deeply for these two characters based solely on their movement. And I love this whole idea of that humanity has destroyed the planet because of pollution, and that everybody's fat and lazy because of technology. I love the setting in the space station. There's a lot to love about this movie. It has its very dark moments. I think the soundtrack is beautiful. I love the third act in this movie. It really has a very powerful message about caring about the world, caring about our surroundings, and I think it's so well executed. And this is one that I love more and more every time I watch it, and I think it's a perfect film. These next couple of movies, I don't have any issues with any of them. I think they're all flawless, and they're ones that I love with my whole heart every time I see them. So coming in at number 3 is Toy Story 2. Toy Story 2 is my favorite in the entire franchise. I think it's the one of the darkest of the Toy Story films, and I also love the incorporation of Jessie and Bullseye and the old prospector, and Woody being given this opportunity to go to a museum and live out his life where he can be cherished forever, and Jessie kind of fighting with him about he's going to forget about you at some point, he's not going to care, and you're just either going to go to a new family or you're going to get thrown in the trash, and that he won't care about you anymore. And this opportunity to live and be, you know, respected and looked at for the remainder of your life. And Jessie's tragic backstory and everything that happened to her and the reason why she feels that way. I think that all the characters are given a lot to do in this movie. The whole plot about Al's Toy Barn is fantastic. I love the setting of Al's Toy Barn. I think it looks great. I think Al as a character is just like so like seedy and gross. And it's just to me, it's a perfect animated film. I love this one more and more. I used to think I liked the first one more than I liked the second one, but on revisiting these films over and over again, 2 has really grown a special place in my heart, and I think it's the best of the entire franchise. Now I'm coming to my last 2. These 2 movies are interchangeable for me. On any given day, I could probably put one over the other, and either one of these could be in first place. I think these are not only perfect animated movies, but they're just perfect movies in my eyes. I love the subject matter of these movies. I love the characters in these movies, and they really are some of my favorites of all time. Coming in at number 2 is Ratatouille. I absolutely adore this movie. I hate that it doesn't get the recognition that I feel like it deserves. I'm glad that Disney's opened this expansion at Epcot that's all themed around Ratatouille, because I adore this movie and hope one day that they'll make a sequel, because I just love the characters and the world so much. I love Patton Oswalt's voice performance in it. I think he's fantastic. The relationship of Remy and Linguini is fantastic. I love all of the cooks in the kitchen at Gusteau's restaurant, and obviously this tackles some really heavy subject matter, and it's really executed well. And one of the reasons I love this so much is I always wanted to cook when I was younger, and my grandmother spent a lot of time teaching me how to cook and things to do in the kitchen, and so I always really loved and admired cooking and people who were able to cook. This whole idea of, you know, you not having to be a great cook to be able to cook, and just following your passions and doing what you want, and obviously having something as ridiculous as a rat cooking in a professional kitchen. And obviously it's a very extreme way to convey that emotion, but for kids it's great that they can see something that tackles that level of subject matter, and letting kids understand that, you know, you can do whatever you want in your life if you actually put yourself into it and care about it. And that's why I love Ratatouille so much. I just think it's a beautiful movie. I love the score. It's gorgeous. The song at the very end of the movie gets me every time. I just think it's fantastic. Ego is such a great villain. I love that whole segment with the review at the end and Linguini serving all the tables on roller skates. It's fantastic. I can't say enough good things about this movie. So coming in at number 1, if you've been paying any attention, is Pixar's Up. I think this is a flawless movie. I have seen it so many times, and every time I watch it, it still makes me cry. I think it's just absolutely beautiful. Obviously, everyone knows about the first 10 minutes of this movie and how gut-wrenching and emotional it is. There's not even any dialogue, and it's just so empowering to show these 2 characters' relationship. And I was talking about my grandma earlier. Both my grandparents have passed away now, but they're 2 of the most important people in my life. And I remember taking my grandmother to see this movie when it was released, when she was still alive, and just like seeing the, you know, emotion in her face and how much this impacted her when she watched it, because of how much she loved my grandfather and their relationship and how much they cared for one another, and how, you know, they always wanted to do everything together. And I think that this movie is so beautiful, showing that they had this hope to take this huge adventure, but the adventure they had together was the life they lived together. And Carl's character being forced out of his home and not knowing what he wants to do with the rest of his life, and finally deciding to take this adventure he always wanted to. And I think there's just a real beauty in that. and I think all the characters are fun. Obviously, I love Doug. I think he's hilarious. I love everything about this movie. The score is absolutely gorgeous. I think that, you know, the married life theme at the beginning, it's just so, it gets stuck in my head every time. I love how it has its ups and downs. It has its very happy moments, its very sad moments, and it's just a perfect film to me, and it hits me every single time. I think that it's Pixar's highest point in their catalog, and it doesn't get any better for me than that. And I'd be surprised if they ever make anything that will impact me as much as Up did. So that's my list. How similar is my list to yours? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm curious to hear what you guys' favorite Pixar films are. This is obviously a company that's been making movies for a very long time. They've got movies coming out. I'll probably update these lists as the movies are released, but I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about your favorites. As always, thanks so much for watching, guys. If you could like the video and hit the subscribe button, it helps me out quite a bit. Lets me know what kind of content you guys are looking for. As always, thanks so much for watching, guys, and have a great rest of your day.